and finally is retired in July 1978 from the Irrigation Department. Engineer R.L. Raju passed on 4th May 2017 on behalf of Telangana State Central Institution of Engineers and my own behalf. I once again extend hearty welcome to all of you for this important event. Thank you, one and all. Now, I am requesting Engineer V. Jambul Reddy, FIE, member, Institution of Engineering, Telangana State Committee member. Please introduce today's chief guest and speaker of today's endowment lecture. Over to
Good evening, everyone. I am Jambul Reddy, a committee member of civil engineering and also former engineering chief, Hyderabad Metro Water Supply Storage Board. I am very thankful to the Institute of Engineers for giving me opportunity to introduce Dr. Sridhar on the occasion of 6th endowment lecture of R.L. Raju garu. And today chief guest Dr. Sridhar is completed his civil engineering degree from Usman University in the year 1983 and post-graduation from IIT Madras in 1985. He joined as a lecturer in NIT Warangal. Afterwards, got selected in Central Engineering Services in 1987 and associated with different projects, took voluntary retirement from government service in the grade of superintendent engineer in 2007. Before joining private sector, he obtained a degree in law and did PG diploma in ADR from Nalsar. He joined PhD in contract management on resolution of delay claims from Usman University. Presently heading the contracts and claims of building division in NCC Limited. Previously, he was heading contracts and legal department of SIV Infrastructure Limited. He has good experience in handling claims, litigations, and disputes in various arbitrations, DRBs, and conciliation, an expert in delay analysis and methodologies convergent with the administration of varied type of contracts, FIDIC. He has presented 40 newspapers in national, international seminars and reputed journals. He is a visiting faculty for Engineering, Staff College of India, ICADR, NICMER, and National Academy of Construction, Hyderabad, on contract management and dispute resolution subjects and for training programs. He is a member in board of studies, Department of Civil Engineering, Usman University. He is also member of Indian Council of Arbitration, fellow in Institute of Engineers, and fellow in Indian Institute of Technical Arbitration. So now I request, this is regarding Dr. Sridhar. So before speaking, I am giving to the sting to Chairman Ramesh Ravaru for further things. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, మీరు మ్యూట్ లో ఉన్నారు సార్, మ్యూట్ లో ఉన్నారు.
Thank you very much, Jambul Reddy sir. Thank you. Now, I am requesting Sridhar M. FIE, Head Contracts and Claims Building Division, NCC Limited. Please start your talk, sir.
Yeah. Respected members of the elder members of the IEA fraternity, I am deeply honored to having been given this opportunity to present the endowment lecture in honoring Shri R.L. Raju garu. Also my sincere pranams to the family members present them. It gives me as a great pleasure in remembering the dignitaries who have served the departments and organizations and made laurels in their work. I'm really truly honored for giving a lecture on his sixth endowment lecture. Thank you all, and my sincere, humble pronouns to their family members. This is on a pertinent topic, effective resolution of delay claims. I'll be running a small presentation of around 30 slides for about half an hour to 45 minutes. As we all know, we are talking about growth, construction industry, economic growth, construction growth, but really worried because I've been seeing these disputes and contract management issues about around 20 years in government, also around 15 years, totally 35 years I've been seeing from both sides, government as well as from private contractor side also. There are a lot of gaps, problems, issues. And this is such an alarming situation that today, unless there are all, we are all senior members of Institute of Engineers from various walks of life, having retired from and held the various positions, and policy makers also here in this august body. And as an engineering fraternity, the institute is also listening with the policy makers, governments, and its industry also. Something has to be done, the resolution of delay claims, because these days it's taking a lot of time in resolution of the delay claims, which is not a good sign for the growth of the industry. I'm having certain statistics, everything I can share in the presentation. And I'll start a small PPT now. If my voice is not audible, I'll put the speaker phone, sir. Kindly tell me. Is it okay now?
Okay, sir.
Fine. It is audible, no, sir? Okay, I can continue, right?
Yes, audible, sir.
Now, this is Engineer Sri R.L. Raju Garu's sixth endowment lecture. The topic that have been suggested to me is effective resolution of construction disputes. Disputes related to construction industry and the effective resolution. What is an effective resolution means? Timely and cost effective. That is the mode. Effective resolution of construction disputes. We all know the statistics. Just for sake of brevity, I want to say this regarding, these are the statistics of the construction sector. In our country, the construction sector is contributing around 11% of GDP. If you see the sector wise, 11% is 1/10 total GDP. It is a very significant contribution, as we all know this. It is only next to agriculture. Agriculture sector wise is the first, because our economy is based on agriculture, agricultural economy. The contribution of GDP by the agriculture sector standing is at around 16%. As a sector, construction is only next to agriculture. First is agriculture, second is construction activity. Also, the construction is rated second in terms of employment generation, next after agriculture. As we all know, ours is an agricultural based economy, and around 10 crores are families are making their bread and butter, livelihood in agricultural sector. After that, next is construction, which is intensive employment generation activity in our country. The figures say construction sector as an industry provides direct and indirect employment and livelihood to around 3.5 crores of population, be it called a labor, skilled workers, masons, plumbers, hardware merchants, petty traders, material manufacturers, suppliers, engineers, supervisors, all you can say totally around 3.5 crores persons are earning their livelihood based on the construction industry alone. If you see, around 200 allied industries are dependent on construction. You can say materials, bulk of materials, cement, steel, bricks, aggregates, stones, structural steel, what you can name, anything, paints, pipes, hardware, sanitary, so many things. All are dependent on construction. Around 200 allied industries are dependent on construction activity. Construction, in a way, has accounted for 40% of development investment in our country in the last 50 years. It is very massive. 40% of development investment is in construction alone during the successive 5-year plans and government spending expenditure. It is a very significant contribution, as we can say. Till 1990s, most of the construction activity in our country was centered in public sector works with government contracts. Up to 1990, most of the construction was only by way of execution of planned planning as per various 5-year plans, developmental projects in central governments, state governments, and PSU, state and central. Only the construction was majorly centered in government departments by way of government contracts. There were no corporate companies like this we are seeing today. Only Class A contractors like that. L&T might have been there. They're only big contracting firms, not big as we see the activities. After 1990, we all know there were economic liberalization, post-liberalization. Because of the growth in various developmental activities, there is a spurt in construction also with the growth in infrastructure works. So many works in private, in PPP mode, development of roads, highways, highway networks, expressways, metro rail projects. There is a very spurt in construction activity with an ambitious growth plan for the infrastructure development in the country that started way back in 1990, economic reforms. Now, if you see the further statistics of the construction industry, after 1990, there is a PPP mode of projects have been on anvil and being executed. That is a public-private participation. In earlier mode, up to 1990, major fund provider was the government. Work plan, the funds were allocated by the government under various plan schemes. Government funded projects were being executed in a small way. Getting executed of around 50 to 100 crores was a very big event at that time. Even a company's turnover you can estimate. Not the question of inflation also, the value of orders they used to execute, and also the order of a turnover also, because the spectrum was very less. The growth of the industry and also companies were very less at that time. With this PPP mode, the investment and project funding is also arranged by the public participations. So this has attracted the more direct foreign funding also, direct investment by the foreign funding. With this, there is a lot of infrastructure development going on from past few decades. This has significantly contributed to the growth of construction and infrastructure industry in a big way in our country. There are various roads, highways, ports, airports, expressways, metro rail projects, industrial dedicated freight corridor projects, housing and real estate, commercial, factory buildings. There are a scheme of around the development of 100 smart cities in our country, which is a very major boost to the economic activity. So many activities are planned. If you see the statistics, in next 5 years, our Indian economy for construction sector is poised to touch around $1 trillion plan in outlay that is envisaged for construction. Even if you assume $1 is 70 rupees, it may be more than 8 lakhs crores per annum spending. With the present level spending, if only 3 lakhs crore per annum, you can say it is 3 times what is we are witnessing today. It will be 3 times the economic activity and the spending in the construction. You can see the enormous growth potential, because you need more roads, we need more power projects, we need more ports, more expressways, more smart cities, more of all, housing for all, commercial real estate. So there is a lot of still potential development is to be made, and we have to catch up to that level, because otherwise all plans will be only on papers. Of course, now there is a COVID-19, all our economy is also witnessing a downtrend with a negative trend. Construction also is not a exception for that. In construction industry also seeing a negative growth. But as per an estimate and by the experts, after recovery of the economy, the first sector that is to be revived, that will be come on to the track, is the construction. It may immediately after the recovery of from this COVID situation may attain a growth of 8%, irrespective of the growth of the overall economy. That is a positive side and hope that is experts are making it. If you see the growth, maximum around 2012, before there was a slump after 2012 in construction, it was around 15% annual growth of the construction industry, where the growth of overall economic growth and all GDP growth was only 6 to 7%. Construction was witnessing a very high growth even before 2012 up to that period. So there is a lot of potential, and we can bring back all this so that our development of economy in track. If you develop the construction and infrastructure, that will automatically pave the way for overall economy development in the current country. If you can see, construction industry is unorganized and highly fragmented. For a factory or for anything, you need a license. For carrying out a small construction activity, no license. Anybody can anybody can be a builder these days. No license, no registration. And industry is truly unorganized, as we all know that. It is an unorganized industry and highly fragmented. There is a lot of fragmentation. You can see a big work, and with the same, you can see a small work. If you see, there are around 200 construction firms in corporate sector, publicly listed companies, also limited liability companies, 200 construction firms in corporate sector. And there are about more than 1 lakh Class A contractors operating in our country. Incidentally, Builders Association representative was sharing some time back. He says Hyderabad is the hub of the activity. If you see, more than 500 crores few years back, there are around 60 firms in our country, and more than 25 firms are registered at Hyderabad. Say, you can see all around contractor and subcontractor from Hyderabad and Telugu-based companies are running the show all over the country, may it irrigation, roads. You can see any part of this thing. Andhra ka, matlab, now it is a Telangana and Andhra, but Telugu, Andhra ka contractor, Telugu contractors are visible everywhere, as you can say that. Because 40 to 50% of agencies executing work more than 500 crores of turnover were Hyderabad registered. That was the order of the day. Still, it is going on. If you see the various stakeholders in construction industry, there are project owners as employers, commercial entities, government departments, and consultant architects. Design firms are also stakeholders for the construction activity. There are, of course, contractors, big and small contractors, corporate companies, contracting firms, organizations, subcontractors, vendors, petty and hardware traders, merchants, financial institutions providing the finance and project lenders, and also banks lending the projects and operating the current accounts for all this. All are the various stakeholders. If the sector grows, all will be benefited. If there is no growth in the sector, all will be affected. These are various stakeholders. Sir, my audio is okay? Fine?
Yes.
Yes. These are all the statistics of the construction industry, but irony is that construction industry is undergoing very severe challenges and implementing project schedules. Everything is not blue. As per a report, there is a NICMAR and CIDs have made a report of a few years. What are all the projects awarded? How many projects are going time and cost overruns? It is a very unfortunate to quote it here that around 84% of projects are slipping targets. A project is getting delayed means what? It results in time overrun as well as cost overrun. 84% of projects. As we all know, if any project is getting completed in time these days, we clap it. It appears in newspapers. If Sridharan from Delhi, father of Delhi metros in India, if he has completed the Delhi metro packages earlier in time, that has been a very big news. He was rewarded also, because if you complete the time, it is a reward these days. That was a order. 84% project slipping targets is a very severe dent, and it is a very remarkable. Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation under central government in Planning Commission, they will be monitoring the infra projects of more than 150 crores and publishing yearly report after March. As per the report as of 2018, around 1,300 projects, they have made an analysis. They have the data. That value is total around 16.21 lakhs crores, total value of the work. Only 300 projects are as per schedule, means more than 1,000 projects are behind the schedule. They have also assessed what are the impact of cost overruns because of the project implementation schedules. It is coming around 3 lakhs crores, means it is a whopping 15% cost overrun because of delays. This is a very alarming situation. Again, present day construction industry is plagued with litigations and disputes that have been pending for years together. Years together. There was a typical case in seminars that will be quoted. In BHEL in Nagpur contract, there was a small canteen contract for supplying of a tea and biscuits. It had an arbitration clause. There was some item pending for supply of biscuits 36 years back. There was a small dispute on extra item regarding a biscuits. It was running few thousands, matter not settled. It has gone to small arbitrations, courts, everything, High Court, City Civil Court in Nagpur, High Court, Supreme Court. Ultimately, the matter after 36 years, it got resolved with a few lakhs of interest and the original amount. Now the second case has come after 36 years. The person who was the contractor has died. Now his successor started a litigation who has to take a big chunk of money running into lakhs, including the interest. That is a typical example of a litigation in our country. Ultimately, all matters will go to up to the Supreme Court level, crossing the various dispute resolution forums. We'll discuss all this by next. So there are litigations and disputes pending for years together in the construction industry. This is a alarming report. Around rupees 1 lakh crores of disputes are pending in arbitrations, various dispute resolution forums like DRBs, conciliations, and different courts, say it is a district civil court, high court, or Supreme Courts. The total pending amount of litigations pending in various dispute resolution forums and courts presently is pegged at around 1 lakh crores of rupees. This is very alarming and shows a very bad sign for the growth of the construction industry. The more litigations, more impediments for the growth. Litigations is not a harmonious sign for, that is not a good sign for the harmonious growth of the industries. When there is a litigation, parties will not care for the work at all. Economy will suffer, contracting companies will suffer, government suffer, and even providing the facilities, not only the government, the public also will suffer. If the project is ultimately delayed, who will suffer? The public will suffer. A road is delayed, who will suffer? The public will suffer. That is the irony of the present situation. Now, in around 70% of disputes, state is a party to the litigation. If you analyze the disputes, history of the disputes, state means one of the state government or a central government or a state PSU is a party to the litigation. The litigation is against a state entity, whether it is central government, state government, or a PSU. Court has made an observation, jovially, a comment. The state means the government is fighting with its own citizens, means the contracting firms and companies, for a public cause, in the public interest, with its own citizens, and using the public funds. That is an irony of the situation the court has observed. Of course, it may be a comment, but it is worth to mention and feel pity for that. That is the situation presently prevailing. A central agency implementing roads and highways in central sector, which is a NHI, he is facing claims in excess of 10,000 crores. The NHI set up a settlement mechanism of various forms, and it is actively pursuing settlement of disputes and out-of-court settlements, out of DRB and arbitration settlements in a big way, so that the projects are not litigated and genuine issues are settled. There is a very good sign and a very good growth orientation from the Premier Road Development Agency. It is a very welcoming and a laudable effort. They are also getting fruits. And people are settling for that. If you raise a claim, generations will pass. If you say, if I'm getting 10 crores instead of 100 crores after 20 years, who will bother and who will see all the money? One thing better, get one better rather two in bush. That is a saying Wales says. Again, as per a survey conducted on World Bank aided projects, the time involved in realization of amounts right from lodging a claim to its realization is 20 years. 2 decades back, there was a survey made on the World Bank aided projects by a agency. One CPWD retired Director General Shri Engineer O.P. Goyal was involved in that. He is also past president of our Institute of Engineers. He was involved in making a report to the government. He has shared it. It's a public. He says he has 90% of the projects which have gone for the litigation. It takes 20 years for realization of the amount, right from going all dispute resolution forms and ultimately in Supreme Court. And in around 90% of the cases, courts have upheld the arbitral award. And in more than 80% of the cases, arbitration tribunals have upheld the DRB recommendations. What he has concluded is, if you can honor the DRB recommendation, 80% of the litigations one can avoid it, provided there is a policy from all stakeholders. So settlement is the best form. That's what I want to mention it. Prolonged litigations are a hurdle and deterrent to the growth of industry, all will know. The more litigations, the more claims pending, the more there will be negative sign to the industry growth, and all stakeholders will be stressed. If you go to courts, courts are already overburdened. There are more than 3 crores of pending cases in various courts, district courts, fossil courts, magistrate courts, high courts, and Supreme Courts. If you go to the courts with this arbitration award challenging, again, it leads to a Pandora's box. It will take decades. If you make an anatomy of the disputes, there was a study made, again, it is an authentic study, sample study was made. In the disputes, 15 to 20% of disputes will occur on account of variations, extra items, out of scope work, and valuations. It is a variation, right? Agreed, extra scope of work. I claim 100, you give only 20 rupees. So there is a valuation mechanism. There is called quantum merit claims. In EPC contracts in particular, extra item is agreed, right? This is the extra scope of work, EPC scope extra. But there is a dispute on valuation. How much is extra payable? There are called quantum merit claims. Many of the EPC contracts are landing with this type because there is no agreed valuation mechanisms. Ultimately, people will fight it in arbitral tribunals and courts. 40 to 50% of disputes are by way of LDs because of delays, time extension, EOT issues, prolongation cost, delay claims. What if the project is delayed or prolonged? The owners, project owners will make a LD on the contractor because LD is contractual. 0.1% or 0.5% contract value per week or per month of delay is written by you are liable for late. Contractors' challenges on other grounds. Delay is not on my part. Most of the disputes are on this. Who is responsible for the delay and what is the compensation? Either by FLD or contractors will lodge delay claims on the project owners. EOT is not sanctioned. Who is responsible for a delay? EOT issues. Prolongation, overstay compensation cost, and contractors will lodge delay claims against the LDs. These are a big chunk of litigations. If you can see that 1 lakh crores, 50% will be this. Some person has rightly commented and joked, if you remove the loss of profit claims, 20 to 30% will be choked off. That is only a order of the litigations. Next, around 20 to 30% of disputes are ambiguities. Ambiguities means there is no specific meaning you can derive from the term of the contract. That gives a multiple interpretation and scope for the interpretation. Both parties will interpret for their own convenience. So there will be litigation in dispute because of poor drafting in contract conditions, some omissions, some multiple way of interpretation, there will be ambiguities. They also contribute around 20 to 30% of disputes. And for resolution of ambiguities is a very big subject. There are golden rules of interpretation. How a arbitrator or a court has to resolve an ambiguity. There are golden rules. There is a good literature and court cases, case laws are available. But before all this, why should you go for a third party? Parties can sit and based on the agreed principles, they can settle it, ambiguity. So these are the types of claims I have mentioned about the disputes. One is a contractual claims. Claims means claims which arise of excess provision in the particular contract, extra cost. This is a direct loss specifically provided as a remedy in the contract. Next type of claims are extra contractual claims. These are not as per contract, but based on the law. Suppose if the project is delayed, the department will levy a LD. That is a contractual claim because LD is provided in the contract. If the contractor alleges that the delay is from the department, there is no contractual provision. He will show a breach of contract. Sir, delay is because of you. You have not given me the drawing decisions, blah, blah, blah. You have failed in your contractual obligations. It is a breach of contract. So you are liable for this much of damage. He will lodge a delay claim. That is not as per contract, but that is based on the Contract Act, law provision. So beyond the contract and as per law are extra contractual, beyond contract claims. These are another type of claims. One is a quantum merit claim. I told you the merit is not challenged. Definitely it is an extra piece of work beyond the scope, but how much is payable? Quantum is disputed. These are called an EPC contract, spirit, quantum merit claims. Ex gratia claims are mercy claims, no value in governmental departments, but it may happen in private commercial. Out of goodwill, they may give some extra amount, mercy. Counter claims, when a party slaps a claim on other party, the other party may slap a claim on the claimant. That is called a claim counter claim. These are basically the types of claims. Now, why construction claims will happen? Why the claims will arise into disputes? Why the claims will come? These are some of the reasons. Default of the parties in contractual obligations, like there are defaults, an employer department or an owner department delays the drawings, delays the decisions, delays the material issue, site handing over, so many things. These days, there are issues regarding the statutory clearances and approvals. Say environmental clearance, forest clearance. There is also a term of the contract. It is going on a big litigation these days. This responsibility of obtaining the statutory clearance is also transferred to the contractor. Then the contractor says, I have no authority over the third party, sir. That is your own organ. It's a government department. I can only license and assist you in getting a clearance. आप letter दे दो, मैं वहाँ दे के आता हूँ. I'll arrange a meeting. You please represent. No, it is your responsibility. In certain cases, court also has observed adversely, by you are a government, the statutory clearance person is also a government. It is an irony, a government is giving a contract to a third party for managing its own limb of the government, which is an irony, but it's happening these days. And again, not adhering to agreed terms, variations and deviations. This is also a big issue. Rate derivations of extra scope of work. This is also big litigation. Misinterpretation of contract provisions from the ambiguities existing. If there is an ambiguity, both parties will try to interpret to suit their own interpretations. Poor drafting with multiple interpretations. If there is a poor drafting, there is a famous case called rock and sock case. It is reported in literature also. Earthwork in hard rock, that is irrigation everywhere, we know that. There was a case of Gujarat State between construction of Gujarat State Construction Corporation as a contractor and the State Irrigation Department decades back. It is reported as a rock and sock case. Excavation in hard sock, blah, blah, item says. Now the contractor, it is also PSU, says, sir, you show me sock. My rate is for sock. Arey bhai, there may be a spelling mistake. You know what is a sock? There is no sock. I don't know, sir. You are a maa-baap hai. You have given a contract and you have made a tender. You show me sock, I will execute. For rock, my rate is extra. Ultimately, the case has landed in Supreme Court. Supreme Court also, following the legal principle, said if there is a ambiguity in tender, it will be interpreted again as the drafter of the contract. And in this case, who has drafted the contract? It is not a negotiated contract. Contract has been drafted and given to the other part. If there is a mistake, your interpretation is negated. Yes, for rock, you have to pay extra. So that is the case. If there is a small ambiguity, it will lead to, suppose you can assume in a small way, you are given a BOQ. One line is missing in that. That is related to lifting the soil, and it happens, and disposing within 500 meters lead. If that line is missing, contractor will say, sir, there is no lead. I will put only here. If you pay me extra, I will cut it out. It happens. Or there may be a quantity, or there may be a unit difference. Instead of square meter, it is saying only meters. Then there will be a lot of hue and cry, right? It may happen. These are all poor drafting errors in conditions also. In a small spelling mistake, it will create a lot of havoc. That happens. Poor drafting with multiple interpretations. Prolongation of works. 2 years work has become 5 years work. Both parties will allege who is cause of the delay and why you are delaying. And there will be claims, counterclaims. That will happen. So disputes, and these are the causes and the reasons for the disputes, and the same as claims: late supply, disruptions, disturbance, cost due to untimely payments delay, funding delays, employer defaults. Of course, I am just listing only employer defaults. There can be defaults from the contractor side as well, also poor mobilization, lack of proper work organization. Though everything is in market, everything is available, not progressing as per schedule, taking up limits. That can happen anyway, both sides. If there is a project losing track, it will be lost from both the ends and from both the parties. That normally we have seen. You're all senior functionaries from government and various walks of life. You have seen the works how they suffered. Now the issue is dispute resolution is one part. How to avoid the dispute? If you cannot avoid a dispute, but at least you can try to minimize the dispute. You can try to avoid certain disputes, and there are remedial measures. This speaks about that. What are the avoidance and remedies mechanism for the disputes? Planning is a very important aspect in execution. You are making a tender, say an employer department, a government department is making a tender. There must be proper and sufficient time should be given for preparation of the NIT and the tender. There must be proper time and effort. Planning is tedious, it is time consuming, it is complex, but adequate time should be given. In CPWD, we have seen if 1 acre site is there, a JEV has to go to the site and he has to make 5 trial pits to see the soil profile and certify. Suppose he is lax, without going to site, he has written something. He has read that in 4 feet you are getting soil, Morab, but there is BC soil. All your foundation designs have gone. There will be a lot of hue and cry, right? And there is an improper technical investigation, site soil investigation. Even in quantity making an estimate also, there can be severe discrepancies. There is a case, 100 number staff quarter, there was estimate ready. For 200 number staff quarters, time was not given, some urgency, some by immediately you have to float the tenders. 200 by 100, he has made the quantities and issued a NIT and TS. Obviously, if you execute such projects, there will be a lot of deviations. 100 cubic meters will 1,000 cubic meters will become 10 cubic meters only. That will happen. Appreciation of planning functions, correct and optimum planning right from conception to completion. Unambiguous and fair workable conditions, practicable conditions, poor drafting errors. Of course, in standard form, at least contract terms and conditions are okay. Otherwise, if there is a private architect or a say consultant is drafting a conditions, 2 he will borrow from this contract, 2 he will borrow from that contract, he will make a kitchdi. It will be a jumbling. Practicable specifications, norms, sharing of risk. If there is a risk, some sharing mechanisms, responsibilities in execution. FIDIC is a internationally acclaimed contract execution model. For World Bank aided projects, we know that they are mandatory to implement FIDIC model. But mostly what is happening, they say I am adopting FIDIC model, but there are certain special conditions of contract which are overriding the general conditions of FIDIC and basically diluting the spirit of the contract. It is happening in our country. Fair contract administration, balanced approach, harmonious working relations, viewing the other party as a resource to get the work done rather as an enemy. Good communications, no personality cults, discussions and amicable settlement. These are some of the good steps for avoidance of the disputes. Planning before floating the tenders. Good planning is needed. Planning is important factor at tender stage. Reasons being lack of time, lack of resources, lack of awareness, easy taking. If taking TS and NET is properly done, reasonably done, 60 to 70% scope for disputes can be reasonably avoided. That is a generally a tendency has been said. Adequate investigation, site soil investigation surveys. And one more thing, during the pre-bid stage, if there is an ambiguity that is pointed out, people may give an evasive reply. Tender conditions prevail instead of resolving the ambiguity or say discrepancy. If you just simply say tender conditions prevail, it is not resolved, that will carry. That is also happening. Adequate site trial bits, soil profile assignments based on size of plot, location of buildings. For item rate contract, preparation of correct BOQ with the correct items of work. And when a person types or makes a cut paste, at least 2 to 3 levels draftman level checking should be there. So that if there is a line is missing, whether unit is proper, quantities are properly taken, quantities are properly estimated, whether all relevant items for the scope of work are incorporated or not, should be seen. Estimating correct quantities, rates for arriving a reasonable cost estimate, because it's these days what happens in governmental works, estimated cost within 5% one has to quote it. Of course, without proper analysis, if he is quoting, he will be doomed. But Mostly 90% of the cases, contractors may rely on the departmental estimate. If there is any misestimate, he will be doomed. Of course, it is his personal, but there should be a care making a reasonable estimate cost. Again, this is about the ambiguities. Ambiguities will happen because of so many reasons I told you: poor drafting and terms and conditions, typographical errors, mistakes, cut and paste technology, lack of standardization of contract terms and conditions, lack of checking and scrutiny of conditions of contract by experience at different levels, at least 2 to 3 levels. You have as a site junior engineer or a draftman has made everything, you sign and issue a technical sanction estimate. And no, it should be at least checked at 2 to 3 levels to ambiguities and errors and discrepancies. Editing also, additions, deletions, no. Lack of clarity of drafting stage, financial implication, deviation limits, variation limits will be a problem. Incorrect and impractical terms and delay events, time extensions also lead to ambiguities. And non-resolving the ambiguities pointed out at the pre-bid stage. If some query is asked, you say tender conditions will prevail. What does it mean? It is not resolute. Care in drafting, conditions by consultants, checking by experienced professionals, standardization of course, in government contracts and organized construction departments, contract, at least conditions of contracts are standardized. So there cannot be a major scope for that. Effective pre-bid meetings to avoid set right the errors found. Avoidance of prolonged litigations and settlement through ADRs. ADRs means not only arbitration, there are various forms of ADRs for settlement mechanisms that should be resorted to, so that it will not go for any litigation prolonged dispute stage. Avoiding one-sided contract conditions, reserving the terms, biased terms, accepted matters. I'll just deal in the next slide. And these are I want to present just a slide for golden rules of interpretation. How, if there is any resolution, ambiguity pointed out, how do the courts or judges or arbitrators will have to interpret the ambiguities? These are called the golden rules. Contract cannot be rewritten. It should be interpreted as a whole within the 4 corners of the document. One part should not nullify. Suppose there are 15 parts dealing with the same ambiguity. 14 will support a contention and 1 is contrary. You have to go by majority. It should be read as a whole. Of course, special and terms locala, there is a presidency of the documents. If it is agreed by the party or as per the industry norms, technical parameters, equitable fair interpretation, legal validity, waiver of right, estoppel. There are so many. These are the rules of interpretation in case of an ambiguity, legally accepted principles. And these are the roles and responsibility of parties in avoiding minimizing the disputes. In FIDIC model contract, engineer is given a very significant responsibility of role in a FIDIC model. He is in between the owner and the contractor. He will be the certifying authority, extra items evaluation authority, and in case of a dispute between the parties, he is the first person to resolve the dispute and make his recommendations. He is a third party to the contract, acting on behalf of the owner, but still he is supposed to be unbiased and an arbitrator in some sense between the parties. Engineer has the roles. It is an important role. He has to ensure the fair contract administration. At times, he is the owner checking the bills, and at times he is the agent of the owner acting certain qualities on behalf of the undertaking jobs. But other times he is in between. At other times he has to be, and he is a first place. He is acting as an adjudicator and determines resolve the disputes in between the parties. That is a very good model adopted in FIDIC conditions. Unfortunately, even in our model or in our country, FIDIC model contracts, engineers are appointed by the authorities and their decision is not followed. That is an irony. Now, finally, around 2 slides I'm having finally to share with you. These are the summarization. Effective, timely, and speedy resolution of disputes is the need of the hour. Effective means what? Time should be curtailed. In minimum time, 20-25 years, there is no. And speed, time, speed, and cost also. Cost effective, cost also. Because if you see the litigations, it will be almost 5% of the cost of claim, value of the claims. It is very high compared to international standards. Our cost of arbitrations or courts are very high. Arbitrators also, retired court judges, they are charging very hefty, belying the arbitration act also. You cannot fight with them. So timely and cost-effective resolution of disputes is imperative for the growth of construction and in turn economy. If there is a growth in construction, automatically it will give boost to economy. If there is a negative growth of construction, economy cannot grow because most of our activity is only second next to the sector-wise. Owner and employee departments have to make a good efforts for preparation of tenders, needs, and adequate planning to minimize the discrepancies. Resolution of ambiguities at pre-bid stage when they are raised. Avoiding one-sided conditions, standardization of, because you reserve every right. Avoiding one-sided means whatever the contractor does, I will not accept. There is no responsibility on my part. Everything is your responsibility. Fair contract administration and a balanced approach. FIDIC gives a balanced approach and a fair contract administration, but mostly, unfortunately, many of the departments, they have a contract conditions are one-sided heavily in favor of the departments. There are problems because when it comes in contract terms and conditions, there are accepted matters. Whatever the department rules on extra items, extension of time, it is an accepted matter and not open for arbitration. Only you can challenge in court. So you are restricted with that is an accepted matters. Courts also will said if the parties will agree, no problem. In elsewhere in foreign countries, there is a law. They will protect the rights of the weak party. Fair terms also they can interrupt, but in our as per our legal systems, when you agree with your open eyes, court will not interfere in the civil contracts. You agreed it to be an accepted matter. It is an accepted matter. You cannot challenge in arbitration. The owner determines EOT, extra items, that is final and binding. No arbitration, only court. Go to court and challenge it. So there are so many accepted matters. Restriction of scope of dispute resolutions. Most of the disputes, if arise, are barred from arbitration, only court. Then there is no fun in having an arbitration clause in that sense. FIDIC model contracts are suppressed with special conditions. Basically, it is dilution of the spirit. World Bank aided projects invariably say that you have to have a FIDIC model. You implement a FIDIC, you make a special conditions overriding the general conditions of FIDIC. So basic spirit of the FIDIC is diluted. That's happening. That is a very unfortunate. Not good in avoiding. And also certain contract departments will not provide for arbitration. If there is any dispute, straight away go to city civil court. So no ADR methods. Finally, good settlement mechanism. Certain department have honoring DRB as I told you, as per a report, 80% of DRB recommendations are upheld in arbitrations and 90% of arbitration awards are upheld in courts. So ultimately, after decades, government or any owner department will be paying a huge interest. Instead of that, better to settle it. Conciliations also. Even there is no provision to accept the conciliation also. If suppose a nominal conciliation will be done because government policy is to encourage the conciliation, nobody will honor the conciliation. It is only a step to just fail and go to the next. That is a very unfortunate. Conciliation is being provided in so many PSUs. If you see the successful settlement deeds of coming out of conciliation, practically very aximal, nil. Problem of arbitrator appointment. Certain conditions are there in certain government departments. The administrative head of the department will appoint the arbitrator, and either serving officers or retired officers alone can be appointed as arbitrator. So there is no fairness. Obviously, they may be biased. Recently, the court has said nothing doing. All such these are now illegal as per the latest provisions. Their arbitrator cannot be appointed by the departmental persons who are also interested party. And of course, some time back there was a rule that court judgments that the employer department serving at retired officers cannot act as an arbitrators. Department serving cannot. Now it was there was a practice. Promotion of institutional arbitrations are mostly held by ad hoc modes. Now there is a big impetus from the government policy for the promotion of institutional arbitration mechanisms. Arbitration Act was also amended in 2015 and 2019. There are significant amendments made, and there is a Arbitration Council of India formation. It is yet to be constituted. So that will accredit the arbitral institute and promote the institutional arbitration. It is a very good sign. Now, finally, it's all stakeholders, whether it is a contracting companies, contractors, project vendors, government departments, policy makers, owner department, commercial departments, organizations. They have to ensure the effective resolution of construction disputes to make the India a global hub for international arbitrations. Unfortunately, there are so many foreign parties coming for business here. They will not accept for our Indian laws. They say, we will agree and work here. We'll enter into a contract. If there is any dispute, let us go to Singapore, Paris, ICC. Singapore International Center of Arbitration. No ICA, no commercial domestic. They are insisting that. Why? Because they have no confidence in our systems. But we have an ambitious plan. Not only this, but our India, our country should be a global hub for the international arbitrations, not only administered in our country, also elsewhere. Singapore is doing a lot of very good positive progress. So this should be finally implemented. So we have to ensure that effective means fast and time effective dispute resolution shall be practiced as a social objective and as a policy by all stakeholders, engineers, technical persons, so that our country competes effectively globally. We have to get involved in global trade, and we can also attract the foreign investment in a more way, in a big way. That is the need of the work. With these words, I want to conclude it. Thank you a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sridhar Garu. Really very interesting and very important topic you have covered for all the civil engineers on behalf of the institution of engineers. Really, we are very thankful to you, sir. You covered all the issues in the arbitration and all what are the types of contracts, everything, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Please give the big round of applause to our Sridhar Garki. Sorry. Now I request engineer T. Anjaya, please propose the vote of thanks. చాలా ఇంట్రెస్టింగ్ ఉంది సార్. రోజు సెమినార్లో మళ్ళీ ఒకసారి సెమినార్ పెట్టిద్దాం సార్. సెమినార్లో విల్ కవర్ దట్. We'll call all this. Yes.
Respected chief guest and speaker of today's endowment lecture, dignitaries on the webinar, distinguished guests, fellow fraternity, media friends, and family members of R.L. Raju, and ladies and gentlemen, it gives me immense pleasure to perform the pleasant duty of proposing vote of thanks on behalf of the Institution of Engineers India, Telangana State Center, and on my own behalf, I convey our profound thanks to Dr. Sridhar Murthy, FIE, Head Contracts and Claims Building Division, NCC Limited, Hyderabad, who made it convenient to be admits us today and delivered Engineer R.L. Raju 6th Endowment Lecture on a very important topic. Sridhar Garu, you have narrated each and every point, sir. You have covered disputes in this contract management, and you have followed completely narrated ADR methods also. Really, your lecture is very interesting, and all the practical engineers have facing these problems, and it is very useful to for working engineers and contractors also, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I convey our thanks to the guest, fellow fraternity, budding engineers, and who made it convenient to participate in the webinar. I thank the management of media and for their continued support to all our endeavors and activities. Once again, I convey my thanks to all the participants and who made it successful this evening. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, Sridhar Garu.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Dr. ISN Raju, sir, is there?
Unnar. He's there, sir. He's seen.
Sir, Raju, sir. ఓకే సార్
చెప్పండి.
మీరు ఏమైనా చెప్తుంటారా సార్? మీరు అడగడానికి మర్చిపోయాం సార్ మేము.
ఏది?
యు వాంట్ టెల్ ఎనీథింగ్ అబౌట్ రాజు గారు సార్?
ఐ థింక్ థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్, మన శ్రీధర్ గారు.
Thanks, sir.
So I also got some passion about these arbitrations, and I was also arbitrator
Sir.
And we also dealt, like you also, I did my ADR in Nalsar.
Yeah.
So but I used to volunteer. I think a lot of people consult me, so I volunteer do it. So as you said, this correct. One-sided agreements are defeating the arbitration cases of the government.
Yeah.
So actually, they are not standing for the legal stand. That's why the government is losing all these most of the cases. And another important thing is arbitration award must be respected by both the parties.
Yeah, that is not
So
happening.
that the government is not visualizing that. So the government got a grand stand that whatever arbitration comes, they want to appeal or they want to reject. So
As a
that is landing the government. So I think paying a lot of penalties. Sir, one more thing. Hello, am I
Sir,
audible?
Yeah, please. You are audible.
So one more thing is actually when extension of time is there. Actually, I am basically chief engineer working in irrigation department.
Sir.
So in our agreements, whenever extension of time comes, so as a safety factor, as an officer, we will take an undertaking from the contractor that extension sought by him is without any claims, and he will that undertaking will take it.
Sir.
So just for the sake of getting extension, he is giving that undertaking on a bond paper.
Sir.
But after the work is completed, he is approaching the court. So
Yes,
going for claims. How legally it stands? Because
no,
once
sir, that is absolutely right, sir. Because that is as per Contract Act. Any agreement given under undue influence is null and void. What he will say is, he is not giving a voluntary. There is a contract specifies also a format. No claim certificate is given in the contract, or the department will say, you give me a certificate in this form. So it is not a voluntary and given it. So what he can argue is, I have given under a duress and undue influence. If I do not sign this, I will not get my payment and I will not get my EOT. Bond paper means what the court also have said. This is the wording they have said in a judgment. Necessity knows no law. Army bhuka mar raha hai. Even judge has you can ask him to sign any dotted paper. One thing is, it is not a negotiated. I am dropping this and you are dropping this. I am making an undertaking. That is existing practice. Certain contracts specify the format also. There is a question of giving it voluntary, sir. Anything is giving under force, coercion, duress, and undue influence is null and void. So that is challengeable. And we also
we will conduct one day half day seminar పెడదాం సార్. దాంట్లో అప్పుడు we will involve you.
సార్ ఒక హాఫ్ డే సెమినార్ లోని లెటర్స్ 4-5 స్పీకర్స్ పెడితే వెరీ యూస్ఫుల్.
బాగుంటుంది సార్, ఇంట్రెస్టింగ్ ఉంటుంది సార్.
కాంట్రాక్ట్స్ మేనేజ్మెంట్ ఇస్ వెరీ వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్ ఫర్ ది ఇంజనీర్స్. యాక్చువల్లీ దే ఆర్ ఫెయిలింగ్ ఇన్ దిస్ ఆస్పెక్ట్.
yes sir, ఆల్రెడీ మన ఆనర్ సెక్రటరీ ఓట్ ఆఫ్ థాంక్స్ చెప్పాక డిస్కషన్ ఉండదు సార్.
కరెక్ట్ కాదు,
కంటిన్యూ లేదు. ఐ రిక్వెస్టెడ్ ఆర్ఎల్ రాజు గురించి మీరు ఏమైనా చెప్తారేమో అన్నట్లు నేను అడుగుకోవడానికి.
ఓకే రైట్, థాంక్యూ
సార్. నౌ వి విల్ క్లోజ్ బై జనగారు మన సార్. రత్నం పెడుతున్నావా?
వాళ్ళ ఫ్యామిలీకి జస్ట్ థ్యాంక్ యూ.